Hey guys, welcome. We are going to be starting our evolution unit now, and this is our last unit of the year. It's going to take us through the next few weeks up until the end of the year. So it's a good unit. I'm excited about it. I think you guys will enjoy it. So we're going to start by briefly talking about a man named Charles Darwin, who came up with his theory of natural selection. And I've got an assignment up that you guys can do a little bit of research on Charles Darwin's life. The events of his life shaped much of his ideas, including how he came up with his theory of natural selection. Charles Darwin's probably a name you've heard before. He's incredibly important in the world of science, and so we still celebrate him. And his theory of natural selection basically stated that organisms with favorable traits are more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass on those traits. Right? Again, organisms with favorable traits, so something that benefits them. Organisms that have these traits that benefit them are therefore more likely to survive, get food, meet the criteria for life, then reproduce and pass on those traits to their offspring. And then their offspring will have those traits, which will be favorable, etc., etc. And this is his theory of natural selection. And we're going to be talking about that theory a lot and many, many different examples of natural selection over the next couple of weeks. All right. But the key thing that natural selection leads to are adaptations. All right. Adaptations are something that an organism has that helps them to survive or helps them to reproduce. All right. And there are three kinds of adaptations. There are structural adaptations, physiological adaptations, and behavioral adaptations. We're going to talk the most about structural adaptations. Structural adaptations are any physical part of an organism that helps them to survive or reproduce. For example, fur. All right, in polar bears have, it's not actually white, it's actually translucent fur, but we call it white fur, which allows them to camouflage into the snow better. Polar bears live in snowy places. That's their environment. So having lighter fur is a benefit to those bears. And so over time, they have developed the adaptation, the structural adaptation of having translucent or white fur, which helps them survive in their environment. Also, any structural adaptation that helps you, any structural component that helps an organism reproduce. For example, antlers in deer. The antlers that deer have don't actually help them survive per se, but they do help them attract mates. Female deer are attracted to male deer with larger antlers. They also use the antlers during rutting season to fight with other males in order to reproduce then. So that's another example of a structural adaptation. Those are the adaptations we're going to talk about the most. There are also physiological and behavioral adaptations. Physiological adaptations are any internal or cellular change that helps an organism survive. This can include the development of toxins or poisons. It can also be when, say, bacteria become resistant to antibiotics. That's an example of physiological adaptations because it's internal. It's not a structure per se. It's cellular. And then behavioral adaptations are when certain behaviors can help an organism survive. For example, birds that migrate. Migration is a behavior that birds who do it are more likely to survive. They're more likely to find more food sources in warmer climates than in cold climates. And that's a behavior. All right, real quick, the last other thing for this video, besides natural selection, we also have artificial selection. Now, artificial selection is something we're also going to be talking about over the next few days. And artificial selection is very similar to natural selection, except it's when humans interfere and decide which traits are desirable instead of the environment determining which traits are desirable. For example, through selective breeding, humans have developed all sorts of different plants and animals that benefit us. When you go into the grocery store and you see a tomato that is perfectly red and round, that's because farmers have selectively bred to make tomatoes that are red and round, because that's what we as humans want. Nature didn't say that this tomato had to be big, red, and round. Humans selectively bred for tomatoes that are big, red, and round. Dogs. We're going to talk about the evolution of dogs a little bit more later on, but that has absolutely been a result of artificial selection, as humans have selected for certain traits. I want a dog that is golden-haired, long-haired, and friendly. Well, if I breed enough dogs together, eventually I get a golden retriever. But I'm, as a human, determining which traits are desirable. So that's artificial selection. All right. The background information with all this is up there as well. Go check that out. If you guys have any questions, as always, let me know. Take care.